Berlioz takes us from the music of his third to his fourth. He calls the fourth the march to the scaffold. We all know what that's like. Not the real scaffold, but our own scaffolding inside us, our own scaffold of our negative thoughts. We keep marching into our negative thoughts, into our self-destructiveness, into our self-hate, into our hate of other people, into our self-immolation. There we go, again and again, on our way to the scaffold that we have constructed. It awaits us every day if you're not careful. You see, we get over one obstacle, and instead of rejoicing, we fear that another one is about to happen, and we won't be able to cope with it. If anything more happens to me, he says, I'll just go to pieces. No, you won't. Turn away from the scaffold that you've now erected for yourself. You see, I frequently wonder in my work, why do some people go to pieces and others don't? Of course, we can give a quick answer, can't we? We can say, well, this person is weak and that person is strong. This one is lazy and that one is a hard worker. This one made the most of his opportunities and this other one sat back and expected everything to come his way on a plate. Nothing is so clear-cut. Nothing can be put in those sort of boxes. A host of issues can be part of why this person went to pieces and that person did not. Why this person went down and that person somehow got going. You have any number of people, you know them. Any number of people with wealth and education and opportunities and the good things of life, but they fall to pieces. Or they simply become boring people. Boring is no respecter of persons. They've missed out on the inspiration, closed themselves off from another dimension of life. They're no longer listening to their own inner spirit. They're still listening to the spirit of life. All they want to do is their thing. And of course, we see other people who have drawn their boundaries. These are the boundaries. And we don't want to go beyond the boundary. We dare not go beyond the boundary. They've forgotten. Or somehow they've closed off to themselves. That boundaries are not brick walls. Or sometimes even the brick walls are there to climb over. I like the little bit of important philosophy of Marcel Mauss, M-A-U-S-S. I think he's best known, I read that he's best known for his idea of gift exchange. When a person receives a gift, he says, there is an inherent obligation on the receiver to reciprocate with a gift. And that gift may come in many forms. The reciprocation may take on many forms. You would know that in our culture we're not good at it. We're not good at all. We've become a culture, as you know, of receivers. Receivers, and receiving is taken for granted, taken as a right. And the thought of finding an expression and expressing an appreciation of that gift that we received, that reciprocation passes away. Mauss advocates that gift giving and exchange, they take on different forms, of course, the giving and the exchange. But as that takes place, they promote a better way of living. And when you think of it, that's right, isn't it? If you listen to Berlioz's symphony, you might hear the fourth movement struggling with all the destructiveness and threats of life. And then he begins to anticipate the possibilities, new possibilities. Just as in other parts of the music, you hear the return of that fixed idea. Can't get this idea out of your head. That destructiveness comes back. The return of the obsession. So here, you might hear the recurring surge of hope and expectation of a better way of living. Of course, there are plenty of people around us who couldn't care about that. They don't care much for anybody except themselves. We know that there is a strong narcissistic flavour running through our current human culture, perhaps in human existence generally. That means we look after ourselves. In these last several years, we have been deeply absorbed in a greedy, narcissistic capitalism. It has been such an obsession that we have no time for anyone who talks about a more generous, humanistic capitalism, even though it might be in everyone's best interest to develop a more generous, humanistic capitalism. We close off to that. We only want for ourselves. And so it has been more important to spend millions upon millions of dollars on the destruction of our fellow human beings, when 1/10 of that spending could have fed the starving world for 20 years. In the fifth movement of the symphony, the witches come out of the woodwork. The witches come out of the floor. The witches of the world gather round to do the dance of death. The funeral dance is on. Whose funeral? Is it the funeral of the sad and disappointed lover of the story? Is it the funeral of an uncaring humanity? Is it the funeral of the human soul? So the dance begins, and the music grows louder and more raucous, and it goes on in that kind of the funeral. Whose funeral? Who's going to be involved in this? And then, in an instant, the music changes. It changes from the dance of death, I think, to the dance of life. It changes from the dance of the lament to the dance of great excitement. It dances in an instant from the dance of the end of things to the dance of new beginnings. That's why this music is so exciting. That's why the themes, even if you never listen to the music, these are our themes. This is the theme of new beginnings, of a new faith being born. You see, it even finishes on a note that says, it's not over yet. You might think it's over. It's not over yet. So much of our religion in the past, perhaps in some places in the present, can be very constrictive, building boundaries that must not be crossed. Keep within the boundaries. Get over the boundaries, and you know what happens. I don't think that's the kind of religion that Jesus of Nazareth practiced. That's not the way that he was pointing to. I don't think so. As in Berlioz's fantastic symphony, so in the parables and aphorisms of Jesus, you have the great possibilities of a liberation, of getting our burdens to be somehow lighter, of finding our spirits somehow strengthened and enlarged, of believing in realities that must be faced and in new possibilities that are the gift of faith and life, of knowing our recurring pain and our relapsing obsessions, and also knowing our new beginnings, which are as real as the gift of life itself. In fact, new beginnings are the gift of life